Good afternoon and welcome to this week's edition of Sunday Night Live, the automotive show where we talk about all things automotive, variable ops, fixed ops. I don't really care. If it helps the business, it helps all of us. Because let's face it, when a customer goes into dealership A and they have a bad experience, the next time you go to dealership B, they're going to think it's the same. And we all know it's not. So the better everybody does, the better we all do. So just a couple of updates. On the first update we have is the double knee replacement surgery update. I'm now at the 4-month mark, which is kind of cool because I'm able to walk well without the cane. I ditched the cane months ago, and although I have still some pain, that's diminishing, and I don't have to take the narcotics anymore, which is a bummer and good at the same time. But what are you going to do? No, just kidding. And so things are looking great there. You'll notice I'm wearing red, white, and blue. Now, granted, it's a polo shirt, not like a America the Beautiful shirt. But all kidding aside, we are in Memorial Day weekend. And though I never served in the military, there are thousands and tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people before us that have. And I think this weekend, we all need to acknowledge that it's not about hamburgers and hot dogs and steaks and corn on the cob this weekend. It's about all of the people that gave so much to ensure the freedoms that we have, to be able to live in a country that gives us opportunities, where we can get up and enjoy ourselves and spend time with family and chase opportunities. All because other people before us have fought for our freedoms, and so many of them have paid the ultimate price, so that we can have the freedoms that we do. So, happy Memorial Day. It's always funny. You say Happy Memorial Day, but Memorial Day really isn't a happy day. It's a day to give thanks and be thankful for what others have done for us, and just to show them the respect. So, to those of you that are veterans, thank you for your service. We all appreciate everything that you've done. And those that aren't with us today, we can't thank you enough. So, we have with us today a special guy from the West Coast named Fernando. And Fernando is with Quickride. It's an amazing company. There are many different technologies today. That's the beautiful thing. And customer experience is high on the list of what's important in doing business today. And there are all kinds of services. We have services that pick up your car. We still have a lot of people that like to, be on the move rather than just be kind of stuck at home. So Quickride is a really cool service that does drop off and pick up of customers. And it's really neat stuff that Fernando is going to talk about. But before we talk about what the service does, I want you guys to find out who Fernando is, how he got here, and what moves him. So welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us all about, don't go past 5th grade because it gets too long that way, but how did you get into the car business? How'd you get into the software piece of it? And how'd you get up with Quickride?
Yeah, great question. So I think like most of us, I ended up in the car industry by accident. I graduated college in Los Angeles in 2009, and 2009 was not the best time to be looking for a job. So I looked everywhere. I was in finance for a while. I was in like Morgan Stanley for a little bit, and I just couldn't really find anything. And then sure enough, I found a job at a car dealership here in LA and selling BMWs, and I fell in love with the car industry. Wasn't a particularly good salesperson, and that's why I ended up going to the vendor world eventually. And I spent about 5 years at TrueCar, where I was a customer success manager, and I handled AutoNation as part of my portfolio.
Number
one, yeah, exactly. So it was a very important relationship. And while I was there, I learned a lot about the business from the GM side. I spent a ton of time with GMs and internet sales directors, and really got to know a ton of people from the boardroom all the way down to the showroom. So that was a really great learning experience. And while I was there, I had a couple friends who had started Quickride, and they asked me to come and head up operations when it started getting to scale. So I've been here now for a little over 2 years, and it's been great. We've been able to grow from, just having a small dealer base of about 35 dealers to now having a couple hundred. And it's been a really fun ride so far.
Wow. So 2009, that means you're a young dude, man.
I mean, relative to the heat death of the universe, yeah, pretty young.
Yeah, relative to me, I'm an old guy. I'm doing the math. I'm like, holy shit, that's a long time.
Exactly, yeah.
But
the gray hairs would say otherwise.
Well, you know what? I think it adds some distinction. My wife hates it, but
right.
What are you gonna do? You can't have everything.
Covered in them.
But you started with some good companies. I mean, TrueCar, leader in the industry, and AutoNation. You can't go higher than number one, is how I look at it.
Yeah, it was really great to work with them. And, I learned from everybody from Scott Painter, who has one approach, as everybody knows, to Chip Perry, who is, super beloved in the industry and everybody knows his style, and kind of saw everything in between. So I really learned a lot from them that I'm trying to apply here at Quickride.
Awesome. Well, welcome to the show. We've got Brian Cates is on, says hello. Steve Chesson, also from the West Coast. Jimmy Prater, what's up, gents? And Terry Turline, customer experience is really all that matters. I'm thinking it's whatever's ahead of in second place. So again, welcome. So the old school was the customers would show up at the dealership and they'd have a clipboard or something that they put their name on, or maybe the service advisor would take their name down and say, oh yeah, the shuttle will take you wherever you want to go.
Right.
But the reality was what happened wasn't exactly what was promised, right? So if somebody fell asleep while they're waiting for the shuttle could come and go and they missed the ride. Oops.
That's exactly right.
Oh,
and not just miss the ride, once they actually get on the shuttle, let's say they actually find them, they get on the shuttle and then they have to ask them, hey, where do you go? And they have to spend the whole ride giving them directions or, trying to make small talk while giving directions. It just ends up being a very cumbersome process. And then that's just if one person's on the shuttle, let alone if there's 2, 3, 4 people trying to go to a different area, your driver has to really do a lot. So that's kind of, the two service directors that started Quickride, that's exactly what they were trying to solve, is that process is super inefficient, not just from a, operations side, there's a lot of wasted gas and mileage, but from the customer experience side, it's very frustrating. But at the end of the day, dealerships have really good instincts on what customers need. And they knew 20, 30 years ago that customers needed a ride home, right? That they know that the customers don't want to wait in those lounges for hours on end. And I think even more instinctively, they knew that the customers that wait in the showroom don't spend as much money because they're there. They just want to come in, get something done and go home. If your service advisor comes and, says, hey, we also want to do this other thing, it's going to add 2 hours of your time. They're going to say no every time. So if you get them home, it really allows them to do something more properly the first time, which leads to a more satisfied customer long-term. So that's kind of where we come in. People
don't want to wait at all, right? We live in micro moments today. That's why wherever you see people, they're on their phone. They have a few minutes or moments to browse online. That's what they do. Then they get back to what they're doing. They get another moment or so. They go back to the browser and take a look. So people don't want to spend time. It's no different than when a customer spends hours on the lot with the salesperson. They finally buy the car. Now they have to wait for the F&I office to open up. That guy's taking his time because he's got to be compliant. He's got to present all the products.
Printer's not working.
He needs to make sure that the customer's offered everything that'll enhance their purchase. The customer, on the other hand, that's waiting to go in, they don't care about any of that. They already spent all this time. They just want to get out of there. So a lot of times they'll get in and they already have this preconceived notion of I just want to get in, sign, and go. Well, that doesn't help anybody, because if the F&I person isn't given the opportunity to present the items that will represent value to the customer, then they lose out. It's not just about making the sale. I mean, think about it. If they shortcut the process in F&I and you don't offer somebody a tire and wheel protection, or, the Kevlar product, right? They have a flat tire on the road and they're stuck an hour and a half waiting for the tow truck, or God forbid worse, because a lot of people get injured sometimes waiting on the side of the road, and they find out later that you had a product at the dealership, like PermaShield or something like that, that you could have offered them that would have saved them all that trouble, they're not going to be happy with you.
Right.
So you have to afford them the opportunity. Just as when the car goes in for service, as you just said, the customer doesn't want to hang out there for hours and hours to wait. They don't want to do it, especially today. So if you don't give them a good solution, they're going to say no to everything without even hearing half of what you're saying, because they want to get out of there.
Exactly.
So your Quickride does it beautifully, because it's not just, hey, John, Fred needs a ride, right? As a matter of fact, I have the video. I think probably now's a good time, right? We play that?
Sure. Yeah, let's do it.
This is an overview video here. I'm going to play it right now, and then we'll get back into it. So watch this.
Quickride is a shuttle ride management platform with 3 parts: Command Center, Driver App, and Passenger App that work together to get each customer where they need to go as efficiently as possible. It all starts in the Command Center. You create rides for your customers here. Quickride algorithm automatically assigns each ride to a shuttle that will reduce your customers' wait and ride times as much as possible with no effort from you. Your drivers use the Driver app on their mobile phones to receive and manage the rides. The Driver app tells the drivers the most efficient order to pick up and drop off customers, and gives them suggested best driving routes. Decision-making simplified for your drivers. At the same time, your customers can use the Passenger app to monitor the status of their ride on their smartphones. They see an estimated time of arrival based on how busy the shuttle is and current traffic conditions that updates in real time. Useful information for your customers. As your drivers complete the rides, you see the shuttle's movement on the map and get status updates in the Command Center. Powerful visibility for you as to where your shuttles and customer rides are at all times. Quickride, shuttle service made easy.
So that's a quick overview. Now I'm going to give you the disclaimer warning up front. All right. This is a service that utilizes the dealership's employees, correct?
That's correct.
So now, disclaimer number 1, if Fred, your driver, who is the 85-year-old guy that has been there for 100 years, that's using the flip phone, that you don't want to let go because you know that Fred's got nowhere else to go, so you risk every day having Fred drop people off, knowing at any moment Fred can keel over the steering wheel, possibly while he's dropping off your customer. This is not for you. If, on the other hand, you have somebody that's not Fred, they have a smartphone, this is perfect, because anybody in the dealership, right, can be utilized for this service. So it's using your dealer employees to shuttle your customers in your car. Now, think about that for a minute. If I'm driving a Toyota and I've got a relationship with Fernando's Toyota store, I know them because I've been going there for years. And chances are very good I know the people, a lot of the people that work there. So if an employee from Fernando's Toyota store drops me off in a new Toyota while I'm getting my car serviced, we're talking about the dealership, we're talking about the relationship, we're furthering the relationship we have, because the best thing in customer service is the relationships that we build with our customers, because that's what keeps them coming back. So now you're kind of locking them up, right? You can manage the process. You're not winging it. You're not hoping. You've got a very detailed system, very much like Uber, where you know where all the drivers are. And here's the beauty of it. This part was the part I liked the best. A lot of times you've got people going in different directions, picking people up and bringing them back, right? What I love about this is that if the driver's out dropping off Mary and there's another passenger that needs to be picked up that's closer to that driver, guess what happens?
Yeah, they go pick them up. It'll add them basically to their queue, and it'll put it in order and tell them who to pick up and who to drop off first, without the driver having to actually figure out how to do that.
They don't have to call back to the store. They don't have to go back to the store first and then say, hey, okay, what's next, right? I mean, that adds to customer satisfaction. And I think what is that, like 25% increase you've seen, something like that?
Yeah, so we see about 25% increase from the people who use Quickride on the CSI score that they give the dealership versus the people who just, either waited at the dealership or got their own ride home because of that experience. And I do want to add a couple of notes as well to what you said. We have a lot of those drivers that you mentioned, 85-year-old drivers, not super comfortable with technology. You'd be surprised. If you look at that video again, we have the big buttons, big texts. We have a certain demographic in mind when we made that app. So our trainers are very good at getting those drivers very comfortable. And the smartphone app is actually super easy. They literally just have to do whatever's at the top of the page each time. So it's just really easy for really anybody to do it. And I think you made a really good point about how anybody at the dealership can do it. We've had dealerships that, for example, if they have a relationship with a salesperson, if that salesperson's available, same thing. If they're coming in on a Camry that they bought 3 years ago, why not take them home in a new Camry, right? There's all kinds of options instead of just using your traditional shuttle driver. All that person has to do is log in, and our system will automatically assign rides to them that are efficient, or you can manually assign. So that's really powerful. And then I think one of the things that you brought up was about controlling the experience. And I think that's super powerful that a lot of people forget about when they say, you know what, having a shuttle driver is either too expensive or it takes too long. It's not that convenient. I'm just going to outsource everything to Uber and Lyft. And while I do think Uber and Lyft have their place in this mobility part of the process, by fully outsourcing at 100%, you're really giving up that control. So if you're a Toyota dealership, like you said, all of a sudden you have a Honda coming and picking up your customer. And then the driver can say, oh, your car's in for service. What's wrong? I have a Honda. There's never anything wrong with it. It lasts 300,000 miles. So that's the kind of stuff that you open up to when you fully are outsourcing things. So that's where we think there's a huge value in using your own people that know your customers, know the area, know the dealership, and can do more than just take the customer home.
Well, what's cool about it is there a limit to how many people can be on this platform?
No. So the only limit is how many their subscription is for. So they can have as many drivers as are logged in that they're paying for. But yeah, it's fully unlimited, and they can basically, as soon as they log in, they'll start getting rides dispatched to them. I
mean, let's face it. There's a lot of people that work at the dealership, and there's always somebody that's free.
Yeah.
Right. You hear all these stories about, oh, too busy. BS. Right. They're busy getting busy, but they're not really as busy as they could be.
Yeah. Or like you said, they can use, a multitude of people to go drop off these people. It doesn't have to be this driver. So I think that's going to be really important in the future.
Now, I got a couple of comments coming in here. Michael Larkin, happy Memorial Day weekend from West Hartford. Welcome, Michael. Always a pleasure to see you, man. And my Fixed Ops brother from the West Coast, the coach himself, Mike Vogel. Shuttle service could be a thorn in my side at times. I wish this technology was available when I was running stores. I'm sure that technology could be an asset to a dealership pickup and delivery service to help tracking and timing of them. You know something? I always say there's no one size that fits all solution for the dealerships. And there's certainly plenty of programs and there's plenty of business to go around for everybody. So, you know, a store that's got employees that they're comfortable having go on the road, this would be a perfect fit, man.
Yeah.
And another thing that we haven't talked about is, here's another thing, right? Parts delivery is something that is becoming a little bit upgraded, we'll say. I remember back in the day, I used to work for a place called Fair Auto Supply. And I drove I was one of several drivers that drove an Econoline 150 panel van with 3 on the tree, right? That's how old I am, right? And we shuttle parts back and forth to the garages all the time. Now, people expect convenience. If I'm a guy doing work at home, I'd want delivery, right? So now you can utilize your software for parts. So for instance, I was talking to a guy the other day, and one of the issues that they were having was their parts delivery setup maybe wasn't as efficient as it could be, and customers were complaining because delivery times were not being met.
Yeah.
Right? Look, customers have a lot of options today. If you piss me off, and pardon my French, I have no other way to put this, I've got choices. If I can't get my parts from you, I can get them from somebody else.
Right.
I don't really care, right? The water flows down, you know, the path of least resistance. So tell us how a system like yours could help with a dealership's parts delivery business.
Yeah. So our system is obviously designed primarily for shuttles, but the technology itself is very simple. It's just about automatic dispatching, right? So you can take, instead of a, customer, you just take a part and you say where that part is going to, what time it needs to be there, more or less, set up a delivery window and use our system to manage that. We have another platform that we use primarily for vehicle pickup and delivery. But again, you can use that for parts delivery or mobile mechanics. And I think what you're getting at, the main crux is bringing the dealership to the customer. If COVID has taught us anything, is that customers like going to the dealership maybe for a little bit, but I think they would love to have the dealership be brought to their house. And you saw dealerships start vehicle pickup and delivery services overnight, right? And this was things that maybe that originally were 3-5 years out from being adopted at scale. Now dealerships are using this right away because during COVID, they had to. If they weren't bringing in customers' cars from their house, they weren't bringing in business. If they weren't shipping parts, they weren't bringing in business. So we've learned a lot during that time. We've made our platforms more efficient for all of those use cases. So we're excited that more dealerships are finally starting to adopt that.
You have to be able to spin on a dime. You have to be able to adapt to what the market deals you if you're going to stay competitive and ahead of the next person.
Exactly. Right.
And that's in all phases. I was on the board of directors at a meal center, and when we'd have people come in, sit down, a couple different shifts, and then when COVID shut everything down inside, we instantly went to a takeout model without skipping a beat.
Right.
Over 5,000 people a month got fed meals there.
That's awesome.
On a takeout basis. They were able to come there. The stuff was packaged up in containers, bags, to-go cups for drinks, all that stuff, and did not miss one meal. So,
or maybe even did more, right? Just by having people who might not have come in before now are able to get meals to their house. Same thing with this, right? Customers that might have gone to a mom and pop now say, hey, mom and pops don't offer these services, but a dealership does, and I can go and use that. And I think one of the things that Mike Vogel is asking in chat is, can this be used to track your mobile service technicians? That is absolutely what it's designed to do. And the reason why it's so important is if you're going to start sending your employees off-site, you're going to want to know where they are. both for their safety, your customer's safety, and just, you
Yeah.
know, liability, right? Or if you're scheduling somebody for something and you know they're going to be off site, you don't want them sitting in a parking lot playing Candy Crush for an hour. That has happened. We have a couple instances where we'll have a new client and they find out some very interesting patterns that their shuttle drivers will do. So I think tracking people doing these new services is crucial to running them properly.
It's accountability.
Right.
Right? You're paying these people to do a service. You're entitled to know that they're doing the service.
Right.
You know, we're not talking about slave drivers here. We're talking about basic accountability to make sure that your customers are serviced and that everybody's happy.
And it's just kind of an extra perk, really, because really what we're doing is giving the customers the visibility of where those drivers are, right? So by giving the drivers that technology, the customers are more satisfied with the process. And, you know, kind of as an extra perk, you also get to know where they are. You'll know what time they'll be back at the dealership, and you'll know that they're actually doing what they're supposed to be doing. And especially post-COVID, this is what customers are expecting now, right? They are so used to DoorDash and Amazon and Postmates and seeing everywhere where their driver is, being able to contact them directly. They expect that now from every single person that they work with, including dealerships. And up until recently, a lot of dealerships, you know, smaller dealerships didn't have that technology available. That was originally just for the AutoNations of the world or the Lithias that could afford it. Now anybody can have it, and it's super affordable or even free at times. And that's what we're here for.
You know, the internet and technology has certainly leveled the playing field. Mm-hmm. Because as you said, the smaller mom and pop stores have access to this type of software, right, just like the giant companies do. Mm-hmm. You know, an example that I like to use is that I used to call on these guys in Brooklyn. They look like a mammoth used car operation online. And these guys were shipping cars all over the country, overseas. When I first got to the dealership, I thought I was lost because it wasn't a dealership at all. Right. These two guys were working out of a trailer.
Wow.
Trailer.
Yeah.
The proverbial dirt lot, right? But on the internet, nobody knows how big or small you are.
Right.
So certainly, if you're providing the types of services that, you know, it's gone from a nice to have to a must have situation. Because let's face it, if you're not offering these types of services, you're just not in the game.
Right. And it's a lot easier to do than people think. I think people think, oh, you know, I got to worry about insurance and hiring people. A lot of that stuff is just covered under the general liability insurance that a dealership already has. Right. So they can actually get started super easily, and they can do a lot with who they already have. They don't need to outsource people. They can use the people that they've trained and developed over years to do these things. So I think it's really exciting time for dealerships to be trying something new.
And you make a good point. They're already working for the dealership. Right. Let me just acknowledge Michael Dean Offmuth is in the house. Says, good evening, guys. Michael is a rock and rolling F&I provider.
Perfect.
If you're a dealership out there, you want to check this guy out. He puts out a lot of training videos, and he's up on the latest products, whether it's automotive, RV, power sports, all that stuff. You know, everybody has a guy until they find a better guy. So you might want to have at least a listen to see what this guy has to say. Thanks for tuning in, Mike.
Another thing I wanted to add, Paul, is about the mobile service part, or really just, you know, going to pick up customers' cars, bring them to the dealership. Right now, we're at a really interesting time in the car industry where used cars have a lot of value. People are buying used cars at a premium, both the dealerships and the customers. It's a really good way to find inventory. So just reaching out to your customers, seeing if we'll come pick up your vehicle, we'll come and bring it for service. Great time to maybe appraise it. And, you know, the customer doesn't even have to leave their house. But more importantly, I think it's about using these kinds of tools to find profit. So we have Longo Lexus, for example. They're one of our biggest clients. We actually built one of our platforms specifically for them. And what we found was the customers that they're cherry picking to go pick up using Quickride actually spend twice as much on their repair orders. So this could really be a big opportunity for dealers just to increase their profitability.
You know, what's amazing is that, I'm affiliated with several companies in this space, and the general consensus is the ROs are doubled.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I don't know if you were at the Fixed Ops Roundtable when Brian Benstock spoke.
Yeah, same thing.
You know, it's like the ROs literally doubled.
Yeah.
And other companies as well. I mean, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
So we got Steve Cheshin says, the problem with Uber/Lyft is that the solution breaks the rule. What rule? Everything good must come from you. Delegating to a third party isn't touching that base, which talks to what you were saying before.
Controlling the experience and just knowing that at the end of the day, that customer is getting the exact experience that you have designed and that you want. We actually have a Twitter feed of anytime somebody mentions like Uber or Lyft or their shuttle, just to kind of keep an eye on what's going out there. 5-6 times a day, I'm seeing tweets like, hey, I'm having an awful Lyft ride or an awful Uber ride. I left my keys in the Uber. I can't contact the Uber. The dealership doesn't know where they are. And that exactly breaks that rule that Steven's talking about. So we 100% agree. There is a space for that though. So let's say, for example, customer's been waiting for a shuttle for 30 minutes. There's crazy traffic or construction. Give that customer an Uber and Lyft, right? Use that as an as-needed basis versus saying, hey, I'm going to do this for everybody. And then all of a sudden you're paying $13, $15 per customer just to get them home. Doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be spending more. So that's where it really starts to become a variable operation on the fixed ops side of the business, right?
Right.
That's exactly what we're trying to avoid.
And it's all web-based, right? Or is it an app or is it web-based?
The only app that needs to get downloaded is for the drivers. So as long as they have a Google or Android Play, I don't know, I have an iPhone, but an iPhone store or Google store, they can download the app. It's a free app as long as they're a customer of ours. And the customers don't have to download an app. They get a text message that the dealership can customize saying, hey, drivers on their way, click here, you can track them, and they don't actually have to download anything. And with that text message, they can actually schedule their own ride back to the dealership. Okay,
so the customer gets dropped off, the driver says, hey, you're gonna get a text message, so when you need to come back, just click the link.
Yeah, and it'll use their current location. As long as they're within the radius that the dealership sets and the hours, they can schedule their own ride back to the dealership. And what really that's designed to do is to cut back on those phone calls at like 1 p.m., 2 p.m. Hey, I need a ride. I need to get back. Try to pick me up. It all automates all of that.
So the customer can pick, when they need their ride, and then the software will then delegate who, where, when to coordinate all the rides. So you're not tying up an advisor who oftentimes is doing too many things to begin with.
Right. And that was the initial thing that we figured out was, service advisors spend a ton of their time trying to coordinate the shuttle, vehicle pickup and delivery, mobile mechanics, just because they're the ones that can answer the phone. They're the ones that are on the website. That's not their job. Their job is to work with customers, upsell, try to get them to fix things that maybe they don't necessarily want to fix. And it frees them up to do that. And that's worth a ton of time, which ends up leading to more money for the dealership.
Is there, I don't know if this exists, but is there a set amount of time? Is there like an industry standard that how much time a particular service advisor might spend per day in coordinating shuttle stuff? Is there a stat out there like that?
Yeah, so each individual advisor can spend upwards of 30 minutes or up to an hour and a half for the whole dealership. So an hour and a half of worker time of people who have nothing to do with the shuttle trying to manage it.
per advisor?
Per day for the whole dealership.
Oh,
so yeah, 20 to 30 minutes per advisor, but that adds up.
Okay, so an hour and a half a day. You're open 6 days a week. That's a lot of time. That's 9 hours.
Yeah, that's a lot of time that they could be calling customers or upselling or whatever it is that they need to do. That's not managing the shuttle.
Huh.
Yeah.
Michael Larkin says, "Are your employees qualified to use this? Do they have a driver's license?" Yeah, it's pretty clear cut, right?
Right. That's pretty much it. Driver's license and insurance. That's it.
And Ed Roberts is in the house. Hello, all. How are you, Ed? I owe you a phone call. We haven't spoken in way too long. And at the pace life moves sometimes, we need to get on a call. It's been too long. I don't know if you know Ed. He's down in Florida.
Hey, Ed.
Yep. Cool. All right, so let's see what else we got here. Setup time.
Yeah.
Let's say a dealership, they realize now, okay, so I can benefit my customers, I can augment my shuttle, my delivery service. How much time is involved in setup, training, things like that?
It's a great question. So we have a 30-day free trial that anyone can sign up for. It walks them through the basics of the platform. They can start using that within 10 minutes. It's pretty easy. Has videos for your drivers to watch, little instructional booklets for them or a walkthrough for your service advisors. If they actually want to sign up and get all the features, it's really up to them on how much time they have available. But most dealerships can get fully up and running on the full suite in like 2 or 3 days once they actually sign up for Quickride, like officially. But if they want to just sign up for the trial, 10 minutes. So it should be pretty easy. That's it.
So they download the apps. There's training videos, did you say?
Yeah, there's training videos. And all you have to do is add your users. They create their account. We'll walk them through a training process and they can start creating rides immediately for their drivers, which then goes to the driver phone and starts immediately.
I mean, it looked pretty simple in the short video, that minute and a half video it played.
Yeah, it's very intuitive. And it was specifically designed for dealerships. So it should work exactly as they need.
What about things like reporting?
Yeah, so there's a full reporting. Yeah, there's a full reporting suite in there. We have both visual or exportable, Excel spreadsheets that you can export. And one of the really cool things that we do is we have these service advisors market these are warranty rides. So many OEMs actually reimburse for shuttle rides or vehicle pickup and delivery. So our reporting, you can export all of that, and then you can file for reimbursement. Most dealerships, they get enough of that if their dealership reimburses that it kind of pays for Quickride and maybe and then some.
Okay, yeah, no, I was going to ask for that because I know that OEMs do pay for some of those rides.
Yeah.
So this will get
something, especially
right in an Excel spreadsheet where it's ready to go.
Right. And right now, most dealerships, if you're doing the clipboard method, you're not tracking any of that. Even if you're keeping track and saying, oh, I think I give this person a shuttle ride, you're probably leaving money on the table.
Yeah, I'm sure there's still a lot of dealerships doing it old school clipboard style.
Yeah. And the clipboard style we just find is very frustrating for everybody involved. And you can really replace that in 10 minutes. It's not something that you need weeks worth of training. You don't need to sync up with your DMS or CRM. It's just something simple that you can run quickly.
So it doesn't have to, it doesn't really have to connect to the DMS.
No, not at all. It's just name, phone number, and where they want to go. So that's pretty much it. You don't need a DMS for that.
Amazing how technology has advanced over all these years.
Absolutely, yeah.
Now, you said, so the system was designed by 2 service directors?
Yeah, so their names are Mark and Rob. They're currently service directors out at a Chevy dealership in Bakersfield. So they're still very much in the industry. We listen to them a lot, and the people that they know, our clients, to make sure this is working exactly as they need to.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You have software guys that come in that don't know our business because they haven't been in it.
Right.
And then you have people that design things from the inside just out of frustration of not having the tooling that they need.
Right.
And this is one such instance where these guys have done this.
Yeah.
How old is the company?
The company's about 3 years old, excuse me. And basically, Rob and Mark contacted our co-founders who are developers. They started a company called Flipagram before they were at TrueCar, so they know a little bit about the industry. But they started Flipagram, and then they sold that to a small company, which is now TikTok. So they worked at TikTok. Yes, they helped start TikTok for a while. Yeah, so it's not just some random guys that built this in a garage. This is a team of professionals who made this and know exactly what they're doing.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And they're still involved with the development and as things need change or upgrades.
Yeah, they're the team, and they're a combination of designers, developers, mobile developers who do everything soup to nuts.
Huh. I always wonder, why didn't I think of designing something like that?
Right. I think a lot of people do. And it's kind of going back to what we talked about at the beginning. It's the instincts thing that dealerships have. They know that this is a good thing. There's, that initial understanding, knowing that customers want this. And I think dealerships are really good at figuring out what customers like. It's just a matter of taking those things to the next level.
The thing is, everybody's always looking to cut costs. Right? The phrase that you hear constantly is, we need to increase revenue, and at the same time, we need to cut costs, right? Now, how are you going to do that, right? How are you going to do that? Something like this, there really isn't. I mean, when you think about the offset from the OEM on the reimbursement side, and the fact that you already have the employees on the premises, you've got the vehicles on the premises,
right?
There's not really any type of increase in spending at all.
No, it's very, very minimal. We call it pizza money, right? My GM would spend more on their pizza Friday lunch than on Quickride. So it's a very inexpensive thing that gets rid of a lot of headaches at the dealership, gets rid of a lot of headaches for customers, and honestly keeps customers coming back. It gets more customers out of the dealership, so they end up spending more money. So it feeds itself. It's not just a small expense once a month. It's a full thing.
I think any dealer principal that sees this would be very, very intrigued by it, because I've spent some time in the DMS space, for major companies, and I've seen dealerships switch from the more robust systems and DMS to the smaller systems. And the big sell is that, well, you're not using all of the stuff that you're paying for, so why pay all that money for your DMS?
Right.
And they get these guys to switch over to these less robust systems, we'll say. Well, a lot of these less robust systems require a lot more steps.
Right.
Particularly on the fixed ops side. So what might have been easy in the larger DMS system, now you've got so many steps in, and it's not just that I'm going to quit out of it and get out. No, the steps you take to go in are the same steps you need to take going out.
Right.
So the people in fixed ops are taking a lot longer to do their job, right? Think about this for a second. This is crazy, because fixed ops is where the money is today. Before COVID, there were a good percentage of stores that weren't making money in the front end. Fact, okay?
Most of them.
But fixed ops always made the money. Whether they made a little money or a lot of money, they always made the money. And the sharp guys are making a lot of money. So dealers are switching from the more robust DMSs to the smaller ones, knowing full well that their fixed ops people are going to have to spend a lot more time to work the system to service the existing customer. than they did before. It makes no sense at all, because these guys are on the front line. They should be focusing just on the customer, not doing more clerical work to get the job done.
And if you throw in the actual transition time, which can take forever, I've known dealerships that have gone through this for a year, transitioning DMSs. It's not fun. So if you're going to adopt something new, you want something that's proven, that that works. And, I think we just did our millionth ride like 2 weeks ago. So,
wow.
Yeah, so we've got quite a bit of data there powering this whole operation.
Is there any kind of marketing that can be done within that platform as well?
Yeah, so we have a bunch of technology in there that's kind of ready to use. A lot of dealerships just don't request it, but we have, for example, like a banner ad that you can put in the passenger app that the passengers can look at, let's say a coupon, 20% off for your next visit, whatever creative you want, we'll slap that in there. That technology is all in there. People can use the text messaging feature to, do things, but in reality, they want to keep it nice and light and make it a really, easy thing for the customer to use.
But from a retention standpoint, so you could build in things like that, for the next visit.
Right, exactly. If you wanted to, you could put those in the passenger app.
And is that something they would download after after the ride is, before the ride's over, so that they have it on their phone, or how does that work?
No, so if they just open up the text message again, it'll go right back to where they were. And basically the main thing is it would prompt them to go back to the dealership. So that's kind of the whole point of the app, is to get people to come back to the dealership. So first it's to get them out, and then it's to get them back. Yeah.
So if they don't delete the text, then that'll stay there forever.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Right. Yeah, and that's something that a lot of dealerships don't explore, and especially these mid-sized groups that have a pretty robust marketing team could take advantage of that. And then speaking of dealer groups, we know there's a lot of cases where dealerships have sister stores right next to each other, right? They own the Subaru dealership, the Chevy dealership, all those dealerships right next to each other, right? Or even, across town, whatever it is, right? They can use Quickride all together. So they have one login, one account, and everybody can say, hey, we're going to share our drivers, and it doesn't matter which dealership they're at, we're going to assign them to the most efficient shuttle. And what that really does is allows, let's say you have a Ford, a BMW, and a Porsche dealership, right? It allows the Ford one that's probably more busy to go pick up people at BMW and Porsche. And if you have those shuttles drivers there that aren't really doing anything, you can reassign them to something else, and then you have a more efficient fleet. So we have a lot of dealerships doing that.
Is that something that's just come about?
So we built that out about a year and a half ago.
Okay.
So it's been around for a little bit.
BC.
Yeah.
Before COVID.
Before COVID, exactly.
Wow, that's really cool. So you have an enterprise level plan.
Yeah. So basically, like, I'll take Marquardt Motors. They just started with us this week. They have 7 of their 15 locations right next to each other, and they have a handful of shuttles that now just work out of one platform. And they get special pricing for that to accommodate that.
I would imagine that's got to work pretty well.
Yeah. And there's been examples that with dealerships that I've talked to, it can cut out if they, make hard decisions and end up laying people off to make it more efficient. Plus the reimbursements that they can get, it can be upwards of $100,000, $200,000 worth of savings over the course of the year for a software that costs a couple $100 a month.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah.
I know that with software, there were a lot of stores that every store had a receptionist that answered the phone, or 2 receptionists that answered the phone, when that really wasn't necessary. If you've got 10 stores, you don't need 20 people answering the phones necessarily.
Right.
So when they went to kind of a centralized system, they were able to have maybe instead of 10 stores worth of employees, they were able to bring that down to like 3 stores worth of employees to be able to handle all the calls for all 10 stores. So from a shuttle service standpoint, where you're not making some massive investment to begin with, now you're able to share that across the enterprise. That's huge.
Yeah, I mean, and dealerships are already doing this, right? Think about dealer groups like Ken Garff, Lithia, Larry Miller, they have centralized BDCs. They understand that we can use our scale to combine our powers, get people who are specifically trained for one thing all in one room, and handle all of that incoming. Why should the shuttle be any different if it's all being done from a piece of technology anyway?
And if it's a good group, and these guys, look, let's face it, you mentioned some of the top 10 stores,
Yeah.
In that statement there. So these guys have a culture that they've developed over the enterprise,
Mm-hmm.
right? So everybody that works for that company kind of pulls the company line. So whether they're picking up or dropping off people for their store or their sister store or 3 stores down, you're going to have a consistent experience.
That's exactly right. Yeah, and that's why this appeals to, these mid-sized groups are really starting to come to us a lot and say, hey, this is a really easy place for me to save money, control the experience, and do all those things that I need to do with just one solution that I can get up and running in like 2 days, fully implemented across the whole group. So that's why we're doing what we're doing.
Now, being also a software company, and you said you had built out some stuff for Longo,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
If a group came to you that had specific needs that weren't necessarily on the list, so to speak, you'd certainly be open to developing something for that store.
Yeah, so that's a great question. And here's the really cool part. Since all of our customers are car dealerships, everyone has the same requests, right? When we talk to our customers, most of them end up saying, after talking to you a little bit about it, maybe we don't really need it. But if somebody's like, hey, we really want this feature, we can't find it anywhere else, and this is something that we think other dealerships might like, why not? We have a team, like I said, that's a bunch of professional developers. They know what they're doing. They can pump stuff out pretty quickly. And we're still at the size where we can do that. If we're a really, really, really big company that, has very specific roadmaps, they can't necessarily pivot like that and build something on request. So now's a great time to actually get started with Quickride.
And you're a developer and a software company that is hand in hand with the guys that are on the front lines.
That's exactly right. Yeah, and it's in our DNA. So at the end of the day, we always think to ourselves, how is this going to impact our current customers? If we're going to build something new, yes, it might help us with sales, right? But at the end of the day, how is this going to help us with our current customers? Because they're the ones that have been paying us. They've been with us from the beginning. We want to make sure that their service isn't affected. We want to listen to them. We poll our dealers regularly, like every 6 months. We'll send out surveys. How's this working for you? What do you need? Is there anything new that you want that you've come across? So we're constantly listening because of where we came from.
Now, you're able to put, let's say, a banner ad for maybe the next service or something like that, right? Mm-hmm. Which is a great retention tool because that's something that dealers struggle with. Yeah. 7 out of 10 customers do not go back to the dealer for service, and convenience being one of the reasons for it.
Right.
So what about, you could conceivably put anything in that kind of messaging?
Yeah, it's a pretty small banner ad that just sits on top of the map where they see where the driver is. But what's really cool is we have a bunch of data on how much people are actually watching that page. We have on average 7 minutes of eyeball time, which is unheard of. Most websites you get 30 seconds, 45 seconds if you're lucky. And the fact that we have people, staring at their phone for 6 minutes, that's pretty valuable. You don't need a ton of real estate to make an impact there.
Each person spends that amount of time looking at it.
Yeah, minimum. That's like the average. We have people sometimes that, they're in more rural areas. They have it pulled up for 15, 20 minutes.
Dude, they don't spend that much time looking at the dealer's website.
I know. I don't have that much time, like the attention span doing anything.
Wow.
But that's the whole thing is when you give people the transparency of how far away their driver is, it makes a huge impact because they can just have it open casually there looking at it, and they can go get coffee, go to the bathroom, make a phone call without worrying that, oh, the shuttle's right outside, I need to be ready. And that just because of that, people are used to having those things open for Uber and DoorDash and stuff. So why not leave that one open?
Yeah, I mean, the right message at the right time could make the difference between sale or no sale.
Yeah, and we've had dealerships experiment with things like putting a Dignify ad on there, right? Hey, finance your repair that you're coming in for. Have that on there and click on that and walk them through the process before they even come back to the dealership. And that could just be something that they do passively.
So now I'm getting a ride, and I get, I drop my car off. I know I'm expecting X amount of dollars for service because they already gave me an idea as to what that maintenance service was going to be. But maybe I'm at the point now where I need tires and I don't know about it, or I need brake work and I don't know about it, and I'm about to get that phone call from the advisor. So now I see something you've planted the seed that, hey, you know what? They say the average person can't come up with $400. Maybe not in California and some other, metro areas, but it's real.
Yeah.
Right. So now you've already planted the seed on what's possible. They get this call later. Oh, by the way, you need tires, and this is why it's going to be $900. And oh, by the way, you need pads and rotors. It's going to be another $500 or $300, whatever, depending on the car.
Yeah, no, it's very powerful, and it just sets up people for doing something a little bit different with this dealership that they can't do with a mom and pop, or they can't do with a competitor down the street. Even if it's just, like you said, just teeing it up, putting it in front of their face, say the word Dignify, or, whatever service you're using. It's familiar to them. They've seen it.
Right.
This is the first time they're hearing about it. And that's another opportunity to increase revenue, right? So for companies like Dignify, that's their whole value prop, is saying customers are just coming in for oil change. If they can finance some of it, maybe they'll spend more. And that's kind of the whole thing, is getting people used to the idea of get them to go home and get them to spend more. If they're sitting there in the lounge, they're not going to spend more. They're not going to apply for financing for getting new tires, right? And that's kind of, the whole point of this.
Yeah, no, that's great. Boy, the app has come a long way from when I first heard about it.
Yeah. And we've gone through a lot of iterations and just kind of perfecting it over the last couple of years.
Amazing. You close your eyes for 2 minutes and 10 years worth of technology fast forwards.
Exactly. And COVID helped with that a lot, right? Dealerships that were hesitant to do something different had to. And we're just here to help that out. And I think one of the reasons that I wanted to make sure to talk to you was right now, a lot of dealerships have spent the last year working with Uber and Lyft, right? They got rid of their shuttle right when COVID hit. Customers couldn't use it anyway in some states. So why not just use Uber and Lyft? They probably saw their expenses skyrocket in a lot of cases. I know dealerships that were spending 10 grand plus just on Uber and Lyft. That's way more expensive than a shuttle service, right? So we think that now, especially in California, things are going to be opening starting in June. Now is a good time to bring it back. And if you're going to bring it back, just do it right this time, right? Don't bring out the clipboard, call us, or just go to our website and sign up. And you can have this up and running in 10 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
After this is over, I want you to put in the comment section contact info, how people would get a hold of you.
Sure.
Because as always, I always remember what I forgot to ask when I was in the conversation afterwards. And having that information is invaluable for somebody to want to reach out to you. That's cool stuff.
Yeah, they can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'll send you an email with all my contact information as well. We can set up a meeting through like a link. It's really easy to get started with us.
That's great, man. I appreciate you coming on, Fernando. It's a little while.
Yeah, good to see you.
And so anybody out there, remember, what used to be a nice to have has quickly moved into the must have space. And if you think that the aftermarket is going to rest on its laurels, they're not. 7 out of 10 of your customers are going to the aftermarket to get their car serviced. The aftermarket shop, some of them have even adopted to the mobile repair service where they're going out to the customers and doing mobile service. Why? Because they want the business. And guess what? At the dealerships, we want that business back. So again, it's no longer nice to have. It's fast becoming a must-have. And for the minimal amount of money that you would invest, I strongly advise you to reach out to Fernando, have a conversation to see whether or not it could benefit you, whether it's the drop-off and pickup of the customers, or augmenting your parts delivery, whatever the case may be. Everybody has a guy until they find a better guy. So thanks a lot for tuning in. Fernando, thank you very much for sharing with the audience. I appreciate you, and I appreciate you guys tuning in every week. So have an awesome and safe next week. 4-day week for a lot of you guys, because we still have Monday off. So everybody be safe out there, and we'll see you next week on Sunday Night Live. Thanks again.